Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business and life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Romana. We created this show for you because we want everyone to learn how to do business and life to make that impact in the world. I want you to think about how will you serve today and what impact will you make when you serve? And I'm excited about my guest because my guest has been around the world. He's from Ghana. He's international. And I'll ask him where he is today, but I want to make an impact. I want to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you. And this is what my guest is going to do today. Kute, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's jump on surrender. It's an interesting word, and you wrote a book about it.
I did. An entire book. I wrote it.
And that's amazing to me. How many pages is it?
I don't even know.
Yeah.
But it's an easy read. Look, this was not the book I wanted to write. This was not the book I planned to write. This was not the book I decided to write. I probably tried to write every other book but this. But when something is meant to be, it's meant to be. Mm-hmm. And I believe that when you follow the calling in the true alignment, you are then deeply in the flow. And that's when life and God and the universe supports you. And so after my first book, You Are the One, was a bestseller, I sat down and I had an entire whiteboard full of ideas of what I thought the next book should be. And I came up with all sorts of clever concepts and clever ideas. And I came up with about 75 ideas, all of which were great, but none of which felt authentic, none of which felt true, none of which felt real. And none of which felt truly aligned, to be honest. And the only word that felt truly, truly aligned was the word surrender. And I resisted it. I thought, oh, shoot, I don't want to write about that because there's so many misconceptions about the word surrender. And so I had to surrender to the book about surrender. And I saw that the book had a soul of its own. And rather than the book I thought I should write, there was a book that was seeking to be written. And when I surrendered, everything flowed. You know, in our culture, there's so many misconceptions about surrender. This idea that surrender is weak, this idea that surrender is passive, this mistaken idea that if you surrender, you're going to get left behind, you're going to be a doormat, you won't manifest your goals, you won't manifest your dreams. If you surrender, you're going to be taken advantage of, you're going to get less. And I'm actually saying, no, if you truly surrender and understand surrender, what if you didn't get less in life, but what if you actually got more than you could have imagined, more than you could have planned, more than you could have visualized, more than you could have intended, more than you could have even anticipated and expected and projected with the limitation of your own human mind, because the human mind is limited. The ego perception is limited. The personality is limited. So what if you didn't get less, but you got more abundance, more joy? Maybe not what you thought, but what if it was better? What if it was more amazing? What if it was more incredible? And so I really believe, through my own lived experience and what I've seen, I really believe that surrender is the most powerful thing that we can do. I really believe that surrender is the real secret to manifestation. Surrender is the real key to the next level of our lives. That surrender is the real password that unlocks freedom and peace and flow and grace. And when I really look at the truly great ones, Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Muhammad Ali, Bruce Lee, right? Folks that weren't exactly wimps and weak people. They were true leaders and visionaries and strong. Mother Teresa, Mandela, Martin Luther King, folks I revered as a kid because of their strength and their vision and their capacity. All of these humans, all of these individuals at some point in their life, they reached the point where they surrendered themselves. They let go of the life they thought they should be living, the idea of who they thought they should be. They let go. Yeah. And in that letting go, they transcended themselves, their own limitations. They tapped into another dimension of life, another dimension of potential. And that's when I would say life began to express through them. That's when God began to use them. That's when the universe began to create and move through them and speak through them. And that's when miracles happened. That's when they were used in ways that they couldn't even imagine. And what I'm proposing is, if we all truly surrender, they showed us the roadmap. These great ones showed us the keys to the codes to true greatness, not limited greatness, but true greatness. And they created movements. And so they showed us the code. And to me, that code was surrender. And so surrender is, just to set a context, a letting go of control, or I should say a letting go of the illusion that we were even in control in the first place. Surrender is a letting go of the life we think we should be living, who we think we should be. It's when you take the limitations off of life and you're open and you're available to the magic and the infinite intelligence of life flowing through you and moving through and unfolding itself in your life. That's when I think the blessings happen and the magic happens. And so the old paradigm, right? The old paradigm of living and creating, even a lot of the self-help books, shall we say, teach this, which is, I call it the ego-based model for living life. Is the opposite of, you could say, being a true servant, right? A true servant leads with humility, leads with love, not with ego. And so the ego-based model for living life is all about asking the question, what do I want? This I thing, this is the ego I. What do I want? And so we're taught to get clear on what you want. Nothing wrong with, getting clear on what you want, but I say, don't lead with that and don't be attached to that, because life is bigger than your plans. Life is bigger than my plans. And so, I tell people, you might get what you want, or you might get what you thought you wanted, only to realize that what you thought you wanted was not what you really wanted. It was just what you thought you wanted based on who you thought you were. And many times your goals and dreams can be projections of unmet needs from childhood, like you didn't feel enough growing up. So you think if you can achieve that thing and get that thing, then you're going to be enough. And it's really an illusion. And so for me, the question is not what do I want? The question is a different question. When we're opening to truly being of service, and we're opening to truly, shall we say, surrendering, the question becomes, what is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that God is seeking to express through me? What is it that my soul is seeking to unfold and express? How can I be used for the highest good of humanity as a servant? And so to me, it's a different question. Then we can become, it's an unlimited question. Then you open yourself to life, and that's when life uses you and expresses through you. And I think that's where the magic of surrender happens. And to me, magic is not a hocus pocus thing. Magic is that which is beyond your mind's capacity to imagine. That which is beyond your mental construct idea of what you think is possible. It's that which is beyond. It's the magical. And so I think it's available to us all, but we must surrender.
And it's much different than doing this. And in my podcast, I'm raising my arm. I surrender. We see in the movies. This is way deeper.
No. That's
way
giving
down.
up. That's giving
exactly.
up.
Thank you.
Surrendering, just to be clear, right? People think surrendering is weak. You sit there and you eat Doritos and you watch, you're just going to wait for things to happen. When you truly surrender, you may work harder than you've ever worked in your entire life. Gandhi was not lazy. Mother Teresa was not lazy. No. Bruce Lee was not lazy. Martin Luther King was not lazy. Jesus was not lazy. They worked. So they surrendered to that vision and that calling that they were given. And they so surrendered to it that they let it take over, that they gave themselves to it. They said a full-bodied yes to it. And sometimes surrender might mean doing what you don't want to do. Sometimes, surrender doesn't mean I'm just going to go with the flow, do whatever I feel like, because I'm just surrendering to this fourth tub of Haagen-Dazs. I'm just surrendering to snorting some cocaine. I'm surrendering to, my physical biological attraction for another woman, even though I'm married and I have a deeper surrendering is feeling the deeper calling and commitment in your heart and your soul, and aligning with that, which might mean you sometimes have to do what you don't feel like doing, or what your current mood doesn't feel like doing. So it's not following the fleeting mood of the moment. It's surrendering to the deeper commitment of your soul.
Yeah.
To me, that is surrender. So it might mean waking up at 5 a.m. and exercising. It might be waking up at 4 a.m. and spending 2 hours writing that book that you've been guided to write. It might mean making certain sacrifices. It might mean working till midnight or working on the weekends and sacrificing certain comforts from your life so that you can align and follow your deeper guidance.
Right. And you're not saying doing this, like, for example, so I have to work 12 hours a day every day. No, until you find your calling, right?
Yes.
You don't need to surrender. So surrender will eventually end in a sense, right? Once
I
you
would
reach
say
your calling.
surrender never ends.
Well,
Surrender is a continual process of what it is to be alive. To me,
Gotcha.
life is the process of surrender. We're in a continual process of surrender. To me, Jesus was always surrendering.
Yeah.
Mandela was always surrendering. Martin Luther King was always surrendering. You know, surrender is that process of life itself.
Gotcha.
So you could say surrender will end when you and I die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that definitely is. We'll go to a different place there. Well, give us an example or one or two of surrendering, and somebody's done it, and let's walk through the steps so the audience go, okay, I want to surrender.
Let's talk about, let me give you an unexpected example, but a business example, right? A business for the business folks out there, because people might think, well, surrender, this is just sort of the woo-woo, sort of spiritual, like yoga people on the mountaintop in the Himalayas.
Right.
No, it's not true. Elon Musk. People thinking, what? Elon Musk, richest man in the world, Tesla, Solar City, SpaceX, X, you know, the list goes on. Neuralink, multi-billionaire. Surrender. Well, how, you might think? Here is a guy. I mean, again, love him or hate him. That's not the conversation here, right?
Nope.
Here is a guy made $300 or so million with PayPal. Most people would float off into the sunset, smoke a few cigars, buy a yacht, buy a house, and just coast. He had a calling. He had a calling for humanity. He had a calling to make a difference. He had a calling. And rather than just get comfortable, he chose to listen and follow this calling. And here is a guy who put pretty much 90, if not 95, if not 100% of his resources, his money, to fund this calling. That is an example of surrender. That is the example of surrender. Surrender, okay, you might say, well, wow, Elon Musk, that's such a unusual, that's such a rare example. Okay, surrender might mean you have a commitment to be healthy and exercise and take care of your body temple. And it might mean the practice of, even when you don't feel like it, even if you don't feel like it, waking up an hour earlier every day, 5 days a week, and exercising and not pushing that snooze button. That is a dimension of surrender.
Yeah.
It takes a level of surrender to say, I'm not going to just do what I feel like in this moment. I'm going to do what is good for me. I'll give you an example. I'm a writer, but I actually don't like writing books. Can you believe that? I've written two best-selling books, Steve, and I didn't enjoy writing them. I hate writing, okay? I don't like writing. But you know what? Left to my own flow, I'd rather be on the beach. I'd rather be hanging out with my family. I'd rather be traveling. But to sit down and write, oh my, it's like, just pull my eyes out. I'd rather you pull my eyes out, get a tattoo on my forehead. But every time, I really don't feel like writing, but I've surrendered. I sit myself down. You know, one thing, I made it a choice to not be a choice. I made it a choice to not be a choice. And when you make certain things a choice to no longer be a choice, it removes the mental BS negotiation out of your mind. Should I exercise? Should I not exercise? Should I exercise? Should I not exercise? It's just like, whether you feel like it or not, you know that this is the commitment of your soul, and that's what you're surrendering to, the deepest truth, and following that. When you follow that, you will always be guided. And so in the process of writing my 2 books, I would sit myself down, whether I felt like it or not, and I would make myself write. And some of those days, Steve, were brutal. I would sit there and the ego was fighting, and the resistance, the creative resistance that is there, but I would sit there. And some days I eked out a page, some days a sentence, some days 10 pages, some days more. But that is an example of surrendering. It's a deeper commitment to your soul, to your calling, than your mood, than your fleeting mood in the moment, And so Elon Musk is an example,
Great example. Yeah.
Martin Luther King is another example. Here is a guy who had a little church. They wanted him to lead the civil rights movement. He didn't want to because he knew the responsibility and what it might mean, and he resisted. Eventually, he surrendered. And so there comes a moment in your life, my life, there comes a moment in everyone's life where the life that you're living is too small for what your soul is seeking to become. There comes a moment where the life that you have created for yourself is too small for what is seeking to express through you, for what life is seeking to manifest through you, for what God is seeking to unfold through you. And the next level of your life requires the next level of you, and the next level of you requires that you let go of what is no longer aligned. The challenge is, most of us, we hold on to what is no longer aligned, out of comfort, out of safety, out of familiarity, right? Out of ego, out of fear, out of ease. Sometimes we get caught up in the trap of success. We do something, it works, so we keep doing it. We make money, we get validation. Now we're phoning it in, and we just keep doing it. But we're no longer growing. We're no longer evolving. We're no longer expanding, and we don't feel alive.
Yeah.
And so I would ask people in the conversation, what is it that you're currently doing that is working, but is actually inhibiting the next level of your growth? What is it that you're currently doing that is working, but it's stopping you from going to that next level of abundance and expansion and greatness and growth?
I love it. Love it. Because I'm an example of that. I made changes in my life because talking to my mentor and my partner. So audience, he's absolutely right. And I had to be uncomfortable to be comfortable.
Yes.
I was doing 3 to 5 podcasts a day, and that was not growing me. So I went to 1 podcast a day to do other things, to go to my call. You're right on, Kute. Go ahead.
The next level of your life requires the next level of you, and the next level of you requires that you let go of what is no longer aligned.
Let go.
This is the key, that you let go of what is no longer aligned. You've got to let go. So I would ask every person, everyone, what is it that you need to let go of? What is it that's no longer aligned? Who is no longer aligned? What do you need to release? It can feel scary, but holding on to what is no longer aligned or a vibrational match simply blocks your blessing. Holding on to what's no longer aligned or a vibrational match keeps you stuck and reinforces what you don't want. It's when you let go that you make space. And when you make space, that's when grace can flow. That's when newness can flow. That's when abundance can flow. That's when the magic can flow. That's when the miracles happen. We've got to make room and make space in our lives for what we want, rather than holding on to what we don't. There's many folks that we stay in a relationship with that's kind of comfortable while we pray for God's help to meet our soulmate, for big love. Doesn't work that way. God, please help me find big love, but I'm going to kind of hold on to this in the meanwhile. Doesn't work that way. Make space. When you make space, that creates the room for grace.
For good stuff. Well, you're saying some great stuff here, Kute. I'm excited, and you got me enlighten my own life. I'm sure audience, but somebody's listening. They're going, "Okay, this is great. How do I start? How do I start surrender?"
Okay, there's many things, but I want to just kind of simplify it. I would say, how do you start? How can you start? Where do you start? One of the reasons we stay stuck, one of the reasons we don't go to that next level, we don't break through, we resist, we don't surrender, because all of the lies that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
As human beings, for reasons which we can go deeper into, is we're constantly lying to ourselves about who we are, what we want, how we feel. We stay in relationships that we know are not aligned. We work jobs that we hate, that we know is not the expression of our purpose. We say yes when we mean no in order to get love, validation, and approval. And so I would ask everyone to sit with this. Question number one. What lies am I telling myself? You want to know where to start? Start with the truth. The truth will set you free. What lies am I telling myself? What lies am I telling myself? It's number one. What lies am I telling myself? Number two, what am I pretending to not know? We pretend.
Yeah.
Because the ego is scared of telling the truth, because we're afraid of the consequences that will come from telling the truth. But if we stay confused, I don't really know if I should stay or if I should go. I don't really know what my purpose is. We know. But if we're confused, then I don't have to own it, take responsibility, and move towards it, right? So the confusion becomes a kind of smoke screen of having to take action. So I tell people, take the pressure off of yourself of having to take action. Take the pressure off of yourself of having to take any action. And simply tell the truth. What does that look like? I hate my job. Just own it. Just own it. I hate my job. Stop pretending, being confused. I hate my job. And feel that. You don't have to leave your job because maybe you have responsibilities. But just acknowledge the truth. I hate my job. End of story. Feel that. I hate my job. I'm no longer in love with this person. I'm no longer in love with my wife, my spouse, my girlfriend, my wife, my boyfriend, my husband. Scary. But just feel that. That starts a process inside. Starts, it might mean someone having to say, I have a problem with alcohol. I have a problem with that. Stop pretending. Yeah, I can quit whenever I like. I'm fine. I have it. No, I have a problem. No judgment. I have a problem with alcohol. Yes, it has power over me. I have an addictive problem with alcohol. You can't change something unless you acknowledge where you're at. And so you can't truly let go of something if you're not acknowledging that it has you. So just starting with the truth is the power to set you free. So I believe that truth is where we must start. Truth is the beginning of surrender. It's the start of surrender. You can't surrender unless you acknowledge the truth of where you're at. Otherwise, you have nothing. What is it you're going to surrender? There's nothing to surrender if you're lying to yourself about where you're at. And so to me, truth is real spirituality. Truth is real prayer. Truth is real meditation. If we can just start with the truth, that's, let's say, step one or a beginning step in the process of surrender.
Right. What is your thoughts on the servant leader and their characteristics? Of course, one is surrender. They're willing to surrender. What are other characteristics that you see? If you saw somebody go, that's a servant leader, like
I would say a servant leader is connected to their heart and connected to doesn't have to be, but connected to something bigger than themselves. Whether that's God, whether that's the divine, something bigger than their own ego. Because when you are wrapped up in your own ego, self-centric, self-centeredness, you're just thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about the other. When you're not thinking about the other and seeing the other as yourself, you can't truly serve, because you're only serving yourself. And so when you're surrendered to something bigger than yourself, a bigger purpose, the divine, humanity, it's only then that you can go beyond yourself to serve that which is bigger than yourself. So a true servant leader is not fixated on simply their needs and their wants, but they're focused on the greater good for humanity, the greater good for people, the greater good. And they're focused on truly being of service, which is truly making a difference, which is really about loving.
Yeah.
To me, this is part of a servant leader. So servant leader is humble. There's humility, because they're not egocentric. Like someone like Jesus, and again, it's not a religious example for me. Jesus was an inspiration as a possibility of a human. he would say something like, "It is not I that does the work. It's the Father that does the work through me." He knew the code to servant leadership. He wasn't like, "Yo, yo, yo, people, look at me, turn some water into wine.
Yeah.
Woo! Let me open my social media." It was like, no, it's not me, it's not I. So true servant leader doesn't function from I-ness. They don't come from I. They've surrendered, and I think that's what it really takes when you know what you're serving and who you're serving, and that you're not simply serving to get likes. You're not simply serving to look good. You're not simply serving so people can love you.
Right.
You're serving the truth. You're serving something bigger. And that's when you have the courage to do what's necessary. Because a true servant leader, if you're just trying to be liked, you're still in it for yourself. But if you're truly serving, there might be some moments where you need to make a difficult call and people won't like it. But if you know that if you know that it's truly going to serve the greater good, then you'll be willing to do that, even if it means not being liked, you know. And so a true servant leader is humble, and humble because they know also it's not just their own human power. There is a grace that moves through them that they're surrendered to. I would say a true servant leader. Anyway, let me stop. I could keep going, but
yeah, no, you're great. That's why I let you roll. It's one of the best answers I've heard. Let's jump in and run out of some time here, but I'd love to jump into business and
sure, talk. Let's go.
surrender. How does a founder, CEO, director, the top level people go, I'm not going to surrender my employees. They'll never work for me, which I think is a crazy thinking, but how can they use surrender to be better leaders and to grow their business?
Yeah, I mean, if someone is saying, "Well, I'm not going to surrender to my employees," it's not so. Then they've misunderstood surrender, right? It's a mistaken understanding surrender. Surrender is acknowledging the deeper truth. So you have to realize, okay, I'm going to try to give a specific example for the hard driving leaders. How would surrender help? If you are any control freaks out there, as leaders, any control freaks, right? You got to be in control of everything and keep it all together. And on some level, maybe it helped you get to where you are. But as a leader, to build a business, to build a movement, to build a culture, to build something with systems and scaling and expect, you can't micromanage and control everything and everyone and every little detail of everything. You have to empower people, right? And that means letting go. That means letting go of the control of every little aspect, and the marketing and the sales and the this and the then, answering the phone. You have to let go. That is an element of surrender. Not surrendering to people that are not qualified. You find the best people that you can find as a CEO, as a business people. You find the people that you can trust. You train them the best you can, and then you have to surrender. Because if you don't, you'll never be able to scale. You'll never be able to grow. You will be the sort of the choke bottleneck in your own business, and your business won't grow. So the art of delegating, the art of delegating, the art of choosing the right people, the art of so as a CEO, you kind of have to let go. What you have to let go is the need to be needed. And a true leader has to surrender the need to be needed. And a lot of leaders and entrepreneurs and CEOs get hooked into being the one, being the superstar, being the great one that runs everything, but this will limit your business. To truly grow and expand is to truly surrender, which is to truly Let go of the need to be needed, such that your team, your clients, don't even realize when you're not there.
You're invisible. I love it.
That's when your business goes to that next level. It's like, well, I didn't realize Steve wasn't. Where's Steve? I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
We didn't even notice. We didn't even notice his absence, because when they constantly need you, you're the center of everything. Is going to be limited, and so that ego has to be surrendered.
Yeah. I am speechless, but I will talk, because that's the best way to put it. Because a lot of people start a business and it's my plumbing business. I'm the expert in plumbing. I'm going to tell everybody what to do. Well, you'll stay at 100,000 a year, not 100 million a year. Yeah. Exactly what you said. It's so well said. You've given us so many nuggets here, Kute. How can people get a hold of you? Tell us more how they can get the book.
Yeah, a couple of ways. The Magic of Surrender book, I would say, folks, get it on Amazon. Check it out. If you're a business person, I think it will really give you a different perspective on letting go of control and what that truly means. Get it for your team, get it for your employees, share it with your company. I also do a lot of speaking in companies. So if you want me to come in and inspire in some way, just be in touch. You can send you can go to my website, Kute, 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 Blackson.com. All of my information is there about my speaking, having me speak. And over the last 20 years, I have worked with many visionaries and leaders and billionaires and entrepreneurs in a coaching and mentorship role. I've been privileged to do that, and blessed as well. So if you're inspired by the conversation and you feel ready to go to that next level, I don't take on many clients one-on-one now, but I mainly work with leaders and visionaries that are really committed to having a big impact on humanity. You can go to kuteblackson.com/coaching and send an email there. You can find out more information there. Also, over the upcoming months in 2024, we're going to be releasing a lot of new events, which you can go to my website for kuteblackson.com and just check out the schedule tab. We're going to be releasing a lot of different events that you can get access to and find out more about. It would be a joy to serve. Instagram, Kute Blackson. Say hi there. My podcast, Soul Talk. You can just follow, download there as well for updates.
I love it. This is great. Thank you for being on. You open the eyes to a different level, different whole perspective that I think people need. It's been out there for years, hundreds of years, but it needs to be enlightened like you did today. And I really appreciate you doing that. I want to thank all of you listening. Don't forget Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, my TV show, Together We Serve. And if you like this show, click on the comments on YouTube, review us on our podcast platform. We'd love to have that. And thank you for all watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.